Water is one of the most precious resources on Earth. It makes up the majority of our planet in the form of oceans, lakes, rivers, glaciers, and seas. It provides us with life, energy, and beauty. It is essential to life and to the survival of every plant and animal. 70% of our bodies are made up of this resource. But how do we treat the water that is available to us? How do we cultivate, protect, and preserve it, improve it, and allow it to be used for future generations? Are we being good stewards of this amazing resource? How we manage our water resources impacts almost all aspects of our society and the economy: our health, food production, domestic water supply and sanitation, energy, industry, and the functioning of ecosystems. Today, we are faced with many challenges that are causing the world to face a water crisis. Climate change, depletion of waterways and aquifers, water pollution, and management of available water cause a challenge to us every day in how to best utilize and protect the water we have, while at the same time satisfying the needs of the ever-growing population of our planet. Over the next 10 minutes, I hope to give you all a better understanding of the crisis we are being faced with and give possible solutions in order to stop and hopefully reverse the damage we have already caused. Over 70% of Earth is covered with water with a volume of 1.4 billion kilometers cubed. Despite the fact we seem to be surrounded by water, only a fraction of this, and a very small fraction, is available for our everyday uses. Of the 1.4 billion kilometers cubed, only about 2.5%, about 35 million kilometers cubed, is freshwater. You think that's a minuscule amount? Listen further. Of the 2.5% of water that is freshwater, 70% of that, 24 million kilometers cubed, is in the form of ice caps and snow cover in the Antarctic and Arctic regions. The other 30% is stored underground in the form of groundwater, lakes, and rivers, atmospheric water, and is part of organisms. So when considering where all the fresh water is, only 200,000 kilometers cubed is available for ecosystems and humans to use, which is less than 1% of all freshwater resources. Earth, the blue planet, the water planet, is ironically short on water, the very substance in which every living creature and habitat need to survive and thrive. Water has often been called the source of life. Not only does it make up about 70% of our bodies, but water is needed to grow the food we eat, to provide life to the plants which produce the oxygen we breathe, and it is an essential part to any civilization. Wetlands, ponds, and lakes are an important habitat to many species of plants and animals, and make it possible to support biodiversity. Wetlands are extremely important as a habitat for wildlife. They help the ecosystem by slowing runoff, reduce flooding, replenishing aquifers, and being a filter for pollutants. Today, many wetlands are being drained for the use of agriculture. Farmers need to irrigate their land, and water is needed in order to irrigate the crops in order to feed our constantly growing population. The problem we are facing today is that humans are over-consuming natural resources at an unsustainable rate. The World Water Development Report states that around 3.5 planet Earths would be needed to sustain a global population achieving the current lifestyle of the average European or North American. According to Good magazine, the average North American uses an average of 1.57 gallons of water a day. The average European uses about 52.8 gallons of water a day, which is about half of what Americans use. In developing countries, the average person uses about 1.3 gallons of water a day, which is less water than what a low-flush toilet uses at 1.6 gallons per flush. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization report from 2012, water scarcity affects almost every continent and more than 40% of the people on our planet. By 2025, 1.8 billion people will be living in countries or regions with absolute water scarcity, and 2/3 of the world's population could be living under water-stressed conditions. Although the water cycle continuously returns water to Earth, with the rate it is being used, it does not always return to the same place or in the same quantity and quality. The data on water consumption in the world is provided by the United Nations worldwide, and it states that agriculture accounts for 70% of all water consumption, compared to 20% for industry and 10% for domestic use. The withdrawal of fresh water has tripled over the last 50 years, and the demand is continuing to increase as the population increases by roughly 80 million people each year. In many developing nations, irrigation accounts for over 90% of water withdrawn from available sources for use. Irrigation has been a key component of the Green Revolution that has enabled many developing countries to produce enough food to feed everyone. More water will be needed to produce more food for 3 billion more people. But increasing competition for water and inefficient irrigation practices could constrain future food production. Worldwide, 15 to 35% of irrigation withdrawals are considered unsustainable, and many aquifers and freshwater sources are being depleted before they have a chance to be recharged, according to Withcott and Brennan in Essential Environment. In the U.S., groundwater is being used at a rate that is 70% more than it was in the 1960s, largely due to the fact that agricultural land has doubled since then. There are 4 main ways in which people cause stress to our water situation: excessive withdrawal from surface waters, excessive withdrawal of water from underground aquifers, pollution of freshwater resources, which can be so severe that the fresh water is no longer usable without incurring unacceptably high cleanup costs, and inefficient use of fresh water. Poor irrigation practices, leakage in water delivery systems, inefficient use by industry, and excessive consumption by individuals can all contribute to water stress. One drastic example of withdrawal due to poor irrigation practices from a freshwater source is the Aral Sea. The Aral Sea, located in Central Asia, used to be one of the 4th largest freshwater sources in the world. Once being the center of a very prosperous fishing industry, it has been almost destroyed, causing the area to suffer economically and health-wise due to pollution. In the last 50 years, water has been pumped out of the sea and diverted from its waterways in order to irrigate surrounding land to produce cotton. While the cotton industry has since lost its ability to be a source of economic prosperity to the land, the area has suffered greatly, and the sea has lost about 80% of its original volume and has been dubbed one of the worst environmental disasters of our planet. The U.S., especially the Southwest, is now facing similar obstacles with not having enough available water. Many years ago, the mighty Colorado River flowed 246,000 miles from the Rocky Mountains to the Gulf of California, carving out the Grand Canyon and emptying tons of gallons into California's Gulf. Today, only a trickle reaches the mouth. Dams, hydroelectric power, recreation, irrigation, and water being piped to cities to fulfill the needs of 30 million people has greatly reduced the flow. It's used to keep golf courses green in the desert, fills swimming pools in the backyard of California homes, and flows through fountains in Las Vegas casinos. Water is essential for life to survive in the desert, but where do we draw the line at what is necessary for survival? We need to learn from our mistakes of the past in order to stop our problems of the present and prevent the problems from occurring in the future. How we manage our water resources impacts almost all aspects of the economy: our health, food production, domestic water supply and sanitation, energy, industry, and environmental sustainability. Even adapting to climate change is mainly about managing our water. By recognizing these problems and responding to it appropriately can help stop and possibly even reverse the damage we have already done. We need to build upon our current land and water management practices and put more rigid policies in place to help us bounce back in response to future climate change. With our ever-growing population and its need for more water and food, we need to find more sustainable and efficient ways to distribute water that is available to us in ways that does not contaminate or deplete it beyond the point of recovery. Since agriculture is the factor that uses the most amount of water worldwide, it makes sense to start there when looking for ways to reduce the demand of water. By finding more efficient ways to utilize water, limiting the use of harmful chemicals, and by growing crops that best fit the climate, we can begin to reverse the problem we have started. Farmers can improve their efficiency in many ways. By leveling their fields, they can decrease runoff, they can line irrigation canals to prevent leaks, and use drip irrigation systems to reduce water loss to evaporation and to increase yields. Experts have estimated that drip irrigation systems have about 90% efficiency and could cut water use in half, and has the potential of raising yields by 20 to 90%. Another issue that needs to be addressed is choosing crops for appropriate climates. By doing this, we could save huge amounts of water. There are many government subsidies for crops that require a great deal of water, such as rice, cotton, and alfalfa, in climates that aren't made for growing these crops. By encouraging farmers to grow these crops in arid climates, we are hurting ourselves by the amounts of water we are drying up in order to irrigate. We need to eliminate these subsidies and grow these crops in appropriate climates. We also have the problem of having lawns, swimming pools, fountains, and golf courses in desert areas. All these commodities need copious amounts of water in order to function, especially in the more dry climates. By enforcing more strict policies and regulations, we could help reduce the amount of water pumped into these different commodities. Also, by placing higher prices on water, we can make people be more aware of the issue at hand and conscious of the water they are consuming on a daily basis. When hearing the problems faced with water, you may think, but yes, with a problem this big, how can I help? How can one person make a difference? I don't live in the desert, and I have nothing to do with agriculture. One person alone cannot make a significant difference on a global scale, but we need to be the change we wish to see in the world. By having large groups of individuals making changes is when we see change occur on large scales. Everyone is able to reduce their water footprint. How big is yours? There are many ways in which people can individually contribute to reduce water intake. By decreasing the amount of meat we eat, we can help reduce agricultural water use. Producing meat uses significantly more water than producing grains and vegetables, and if people eat less meat, there will be less demand for meat production. There are also many ways to cut down on water. Recycle water to water your plants, take shorter showers, don't let water run while brushing teeth, install water-efficient plumbing, faucets, and toilets. By decreasing our water footprint, we can help contribute to the big picture of water conservation. I hope that all of you learned something new today, or that something stood out to you in a way in which you want to help make a change by helping protect and improve our water. Water is an amazing resource that needs to be cherished and protected. It provides us with so much, and it's our responsibility to keep it healthy for generations to come. It has been here longer than any of us, and it is our responsibility to protect it, preserve it, and do our best to improve it. We need to be proactive in dealing with these problems in order for us to overcome them and to set the example for future generations. We can't easily change the past, but we all can take part in shaping the future. It's up to you what effect you want to have.